Hey everybody, Nate here. If you're anything like me, you are way over politics right now. Um, Everything that's going on in that world is just completely exhausting, and most of it just utterly stupid. Let's be honest. Um, that being said, when I come across somebody that I feel is genuine, genuinely seems to care about other people and wants the best for regular folks and doesn't want to line their own pockets. I feel it's important to get that person's message out there. One such person that I have come across is Alisha Shelton. She ran in the primary, did not win. Chris Janicek won. Some things have, recently come to light about Chris Janicek, and he's essentially got very little support left. Consensus is he needs to step down. Um, I really think that it's time that he does so because we really need to get Ben Sass out of there and get somebody, like I said, who genuinely cares about other folks in that seat. Um, Now, I'm not saying that you need to flood Chris Janisek's office with calls telling him to step down. Um, But, I think it's at the very least worth hearing Alicia out, hearing what she has to say, and then, making that call for yourself. So I sat down and spoke with her over Zoom just recently here, and I wanted to definitely get it out there. This was I was approached about being part of a kind of an alternative news source for, the local area here in Omaha, Nebraska. And this was sort of in that vein. Now, that is still kind of coming together, but I wanted to get this out there because it is sort of a time sensitive thing. Um, and I'm hoping that Janicek will do what's right and step down. And that way, Alicia Shelton can get on the ticket. Um, so anyway, I will shut up, and just get the interview played. Again, this is somebody who strikes me as a very genuine person, very caring, and I think that's something refreshing that we need, in our representatives, and not just more of the same toxic behavior that's got us to where we are right now. So, without further ado, my talk with Alisha Shelton.
Okay, well, hey, everybody, this is Nate. I have with me Alisha Shelton, who is looking to run for Senate. She is looking to replace somebody who I will not name right now and go ahead to take on Ben Sass and get him out of there. So thank you, Alicia, for taking the time. And I guess we could just start out with you telling us a little bit about yourself. I don't hear your name mentioned enough in the media, so this is really what the whole point of this was, to get your name out there and let everybody hear what you're all about. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself first off.
Well, thank you for having me. And so my name is Alisha Shelton, and I am originally from Staten Island, New York. I moved to Omaha around age 12, and my very first job was detasseling corn. That's what I did the summer coming out here. I got to do it with my siblings. And so I always tell people that was like my nice immersion into a new lifestyle, because I knew nothing about cornfields or, I guess, rural towns or nothing. All I saw was big buildings and, barely any grass. And so it was really
Right.
a nice experience for me to have. I attended and graduated from Omaha Burke High School, and I attended Xavier University for college in New Orleans, Louisiana. They are number one in placing African Americans into medical school. And so I was a psych pre-med major. Decided I did not want to go to med school after taking the MCAT. Moved back to Nebraska, did a bunch of different internships, and my very first one was working at the WCA, and I loved it. I was there for 3 years. Back then, it was the YWCA. So that's where I first learned how to advocate for people, advocate for women. It's a domestic violence-based institution, basically. And so I went to Bellevue University, got 2 master's degrees, and I've been working and advocating for people ever since. I'm married to Vincent Shelton. He is the love of my life. We've been married 6 years, and we have 2 cute little puppies, Charlie and Snoopy, and they're litter mates. So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I guess kind of just jumping right into it real quick. kind of a, I guess I don't know, a bit of a heavy question to start off on, I suppose, but why not, right? Um, so really, the question that I had to open here was, what are your thoughts on religion in politics? Is there a place for religion in politics, and should people allow their personal beliefs to be incorporated into their job as a representative, or should they keep it separate? What are your thoughts on
Hmm. So I think that the relationship that we should have with our whatever you have, your morals, your spirituality, your religion, that's more so a personal relationship, right? And so I like to break it down in relationships. A relationship with politics is typical political in a sense is looking at policy making and how it helps people live a better life. So if we are all entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then I'm looking at policy separate from my religion, separate from my spirituality, simply because I think the easiest way to try to work together and whatever template you're looking at, whatever entity you're looking at, whatever organization it is, the best way that any organization should try to help the people that they want to serve is with an unbiased approach. And so if I can kind of maintain my relationships separately from the policy side, I think that that's easier. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. Because there's many things I don't know and many religions that I'm not familiar with, right? At the end of the day, I think as long as we have morals and can come to an agreement, which we already say that all men are created equal, then we already do have a precedent to follow. And in following that precedence, we have to move forward with it and make sure policies are equal across the board and do not leave anybody out. Unfortunately, sometimes religion comes in and all of a sudden it's separating people from items that they want to do. And
that? Right.
so to me, currently in the current state that it is, I feel like we need people who are able to maintain their biases and do it a little bit separate. So
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for everybody to have a good, solid moral foundation,
mhm.
because I think one of our biggest problems right now is just moral relativism, kind of just making up the morals as we go, and things like that. So I totally agree, and I think yeah, absolutely, because what you believe at the bottom, what it really comes down to is what you believe might not be what I believe. So why should what I believe go into decision making, when I'm supposed to be representing you and other people? I need to keep that separate, in my opinion, and I'm, very much in agreement with what you say there. So
Thank you.
thank you. I had a question here from a friend of mine who's a teacher, actually, and she was very curious to hear your thoughts on public and charter schools.
Oh my gosh. So
I know that's a loaded
that is
question.
a really loaded question, right? And so I support public schools for many reasons because of equality. So in New York, I was able to grow up around schools that had various specializations, like Juilliard, for example. Like that's a school for music and for art. There are various groups of individuals that went to schools for like nursing, like high schools, got their CNA in high school, and I ended up going the public school route. But the reason why I am such a big supporter of public schools is because that is the school that most of us have access to. Not only that, the money from public school comes from our state. And I think we need to do a better job of putting more federal dollars into public school education to make it look equal. I'm not 100% that type of person that's like, hey, charter schools is just not my thing. I think that in the aspect I've been seeing charter schools develop lately, that many of them have been I shouldn't say this, tend to word on the side of it's us or else. And
Sure.
I don't like giving anybody a forcing people. Like if we are saying that we want to have a happy life and we have free will, then I really want people to have choices that are clear. And public schools, unfortunately, end up sometimes getting the bottom end of the stick with not enough funding. We fund our police departments more than we fund our public schools. And that's the bottom line. And so if we want to be the best and the greatest, I think right now there's an example of how we are handling this pandemic. Like, I never thought, if you would have told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 2 years ago, that America would be looking the way we're looking with trying to manage this pandemic, I would have told you were crazy. I thought we were the best, the brightest, the fastest, the smartest, right? We were the first people to land on the moon. Like, there's all these things that we have done in this country. And I'm a little bit embarrassed that we are kind of falling behind that now. And so, if we are able to support public school where most of, that's easily accessible for the population, then maybe we can continue to invest in our children, invest in our students. I also believe that public colleges and universities should be free. And I think that if we do that, we are able to become the top dogs again and be able to be proud of the professors and the scientists and all the different careers that we end up creating in our very own country. And so I feel like we kind of got away from maybe who we used to be, but maybe we're forming who we are now. And I hope that this is a direction that we go in, because everyone should be invested into children's futures. Also, in regards to this pandemic, I can't answer this question without addressing, I feel like it's the elephant in the room, which is the basic fact that we are talking and having a conversation about forcing our students to go back to school when we have numbers rising across the US. We're not talking about even in Nebraska. Like, I can look at the economy and our numbers here and they are rising, but California, Florida, everywhere that you look, North Carolina, Texas, our numbers are steady increasing. And so I am not a parent, but I hold the very high concern of what will it look like in a school environment with teachers and closed spaces with students, especially where I don't know if everyone has been in a school environment, but I used to do therapy in the preschool level. And the very first year that I did that, oh my God, was my immune system sick a lot. Kids are like super germs, right?
Yeah.
If there's one spot that I would think that you would have the highest chances of getting COVID-19, I would think it would be in the school, because anybody that works in the school the first time, every teacher you talk to will tell you when they first started working there, they were sick or they had to build their immune system up to be able to hang there. And so I feel like I gave you a bunch of answers to that question, because there's so many areas that I want to address. But I also think that we need to have the basic discussion on, are we risking our children's lives and sending them back to school and forcing them to be in this in-person environment?
Right. And what are the reasons for that? I mean, I think a lot of what you were saying there is a question of priorities, and it's like we've got our priorities all mixed up right now. And we're already seeing, a lot of student athletes, practices have been beginning to pick back up and things like that. And we're already seeing student athletes coming down, with, contracting the virus and things like that. So, again, I mean, a lot of these people may recover, but even recovery doesn't mean that you're all better 100%. I mean, I've spoken to people who have recovered from the virus. They still have a hard time catching their breath. They still have to go back for follow-ups to make sure that they don't have extensive lung damage. So I mean, it's a road, you don't just recover and that's it. Some people do, sure, but it's not that way in every case. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you. It's also important to note that this is a novel virus, meaning we have not seen this type of coronavirus before. And so in stating that, you're absolutely right. We have no idea what it's going to look like. We don't know if the lungs look fine now and a year, 2 years down the road, and something needs to happen, or the lung tissue is permanently damaged. We have no idea. And so I just don't think that children's lives are lives that we play with and trying to determine, hey, they should go back to school because our president said so.
Right. And that's my thing too. Economies can be rebuilt, schools will always be there. But if somebody's life is lost, that's it, that's game over, so it's not something to be played around with lightly. So thank you again for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Random question on a lighter note: favorite singer or band?
Oh my gosh. So my dad was a musician, so this is really, really hard for me because I grew up with all different forms of music being played in my house and watching him play and sing, etc. And so, but I will say that the person who I probably get like the biggest like fierceness from is probably Beyonce. I love Beyonce. We're a similar age range, I suppose you can say, and so
Okay.
I love Beyonce. Favorite band, oh, that's hard, man. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. However, I also love In Vogue. I don't think that anybody, like, their harmonies are amazing, and so but I think band, I'm gonna have to say Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mm.
I had another person ask me, and I'm not going to ask this as angrily as I think it was asked to me, because I
You
was
can.
kind
That might be fun for us to see if you get it exactly how they were.
of. Yeah, no, it was, I could sense a little just frustration, let's say, when this question
Right.
was posed to me. But it's in regards to the $600 bump on unemployment. Okay, and basically the person who was asking me this was somebody that has continued to work through this entire ordeal and has not seen any incentive, extra incentive for him to continue to work and put his own health at risk. So really, he's saying, why should and somebody on unemployment get an extra $600 bump when I have to continue to work and I don't get anything. Which, I mean, I can certainly see where he's coming from. To get personal, my wife, I mean, with her job, she did get for a little while what they call hero pay, a couple bucks more an hour.
Mhm.
But that ended, I would say, about a month ago, and we're still, I feel, very much in full swing here. So I certainly get where these people are coming from. Personally, it's not my life. It's not my business what anybody else gets. So, it to me, it has no effect on me. But, again, I see the point of view, and I think it's certainly a valid question. And I guess the question to you would be, do you think that $600 bump should continue? And for people who have continued to work throughout all this, should they be getting some sort of incentive pay or something like that?
So my answer is yes to both of those, and I can take the time to explain a little bit further.
Okay.
So I've worked with people in the welfare to work program, and I've also done a Goodwill Youth Partnership program, and so I've been in the side of workforce investment, workforce solutions, like in the whole like the WIA program, and so I understand unemployment to be something that is capped. So even if we have individuals, let's say that you have an electrician, let's say that you have somebody who is, whether they're head of their household or not. Traditionally, minorities tend to be in the lower paying jobs or the jobs that, don't have great benefits. You can't take a leave. And maybe that, you end up becoming unemployed. At least that's what it looks like in Nebraska.
Mm.
And so with that being stated, and even if we have somebody who is wealthy, let's say that they were working and making a 6-figure salary, there's a cap on how much you can get from unemployment, period. And I can't remember exactly. I'd have to go back to my numbers if it's 400 or 500. So the additional $600, and that is still taxable money. So they may be clearing $800, $900, if that's combined, if 500 is the max that they can get. And then there's this additional 600. So I'm just kind of doing some rough numbers in my head.
Sure.
However, weekly, that basically ends up being $15 an hour. That's what I believe minimum wage needs to go to. That's the direction we need to go towards. Many individuals that receive unemployment are never receiving the wage that they typically made. So many individuals are just kind of getting enough to get by. So that's why I'm in support of that. However, I also support doing something for people who are still working. And the issue is, I think many companies and organizations have done a good job in trying to do, like you said, the hero pay your wife received. I know Target also was doing something for the employees that were coming in. I believe that has stopped too. I'm not sure. I have a niece that works at Target, and so she always keeps me updated on what's happening there. But I believe the government should submit funding to these companies in order to continue, right? These individuals coming and working in the economy, because at the end of the day, they are risking their lives, especially when you're not mandating that everybody wears masks. And so To me, I see it from both perspectives. Yes, I think that that additional $600 should be there because I believe that many people that are receiving it may be below the poverty level. Even if they're not, they may not be receiving what they typically got, because let's go back to the reason why people get unemployment. You still have to be terminated from a job. So that has not stopped. Your job has to terminate you or say they no longer have enough hours for you. So these aren't people job searching that just maybe didn't work forever, right? These are individuals that were once working and maybe did not work because of the pandemic. And that is a specific requirement I believe that they have to meet. So
Right.
I think that there should be federal dollars put aside to companies that they can get, whether it looks like they get it on the back end with their taxes, if it's a tax credit, or on the front end, something where they're able to support workers. Because at the end of the day, many of these corporations are pulling in everything that they have. They don't have additional funding to give to their employees, and I don't think it should come from them when this is an issue that's affecting everybody.
Right.
And unfortunately, our administration is not doing the best job of handling it. So I do support any worker getting additional pay, as well as, like, I don't know what you would call it, like a risk pay or something like that.
Sure.
And I do support the additional $600.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your stance on marijuana? Where are you at with that?
So, I think we need to legalize marijuana. So as a mental health therapist, here's the thing. It's no different from when people were making moonshine. Is it really? Like, if you
I mean,
if you
better.
allow it to be legal, then you can work from there with programs, with support, with regulations. If it's illegal, people will continue to work with it. And so I am not somebody who is a strong believer that we should stop the things that are helping us. I also have people who have really spoke about the benefits of medical marijuana. And although that's something that I haven't experienced personally, the research does suggest that it's helpful. So I think that anything that could potentially be helpful, why not legalize it? We have such a need. And in addition to that, in order to legalize marijuana, like, this should be done federally. And then federally, we need to allow anybody who was arrested with a marijuana charge to be permitted to get out. If that is the charge that is keeping them incarcerated, we should allow them to be gone. And we should have done this already when different states started legalizing marijuana.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you 100% there. Favorite place to eat?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh, that's hard. That's really hard because my husband and I, like, we love to go out to eat. So I guess you can say one of our favorite mom and pop shops is locally owned is Mangia Italiano restaurant. I love the pizza from there. I love their Italian dishes. My husband's favorite place is Texas Roadhouse. He loves the steaks from there. So I suppose if we're talking about a chain, that's some place that we frequent a lot.
Sure.
And then there's also this, I love popcorn. I didn't realize I love popcorn until there's this, like, nice little place that I can go to. So Huskerland Popcorn, they're off of, like, 90th and Blondo. They have the best flavors. Everybody should try it out. There's even, like, I do like spicy buffalo with some blue cheese mixed in there. They have blue cheese popcorn. Like, who knew that happens? It's the best.
Right on. Very cool. Very cool. Shop local. Shop local.
Yep.
Another issue. Just a couple more questions for you here, and I think that's probably going to be about all the time we have. So I could keep going for an hour, but I think we're limited on how much we can record. So one thing that I've really kind of started to get into myself a little bit, I think just barely scratched the surface on it, but just issues facing the Native American community, not just in Nebraska, but across the country. But what would you say, in your opinion? I think you do have a little experience with this. What would you say are the most pressing issues facing the Native American community right now?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I would be remiss if I did not say that I think the reason why I got into even running for U.S. Senate is because of my experience on the Native American reservation. And so I am very honored that working in Winnebago, that they trusted me with their information, meaning their history. Their history is not written down. It's transmitted orally from generation to generation. So to be able to learn a little bit of history on a group of individuals, you know, that you don't belong to, I think it's amazing that people welcome you and share that information with you. And so I'm gonna start off number one with funding. And so I was not as informed about the history on how reservations formed, right? I knew that there were reservations. I knew that we had some in Nebraska. It wasn't until I traveled to Winnebago that I felt so ashamed. It was like working in a third world country in regards to the level of medical care that they have. And this is a government, the hospital was run by the government at the time, but we had people dying from diabetes, dying. And I mean like 3 deaths a week, dying from complications with diabetes, having a limb removed and then they die, just having not enough medication, and the medication there is free, but nobody's doing no patient educator to explain to them why to take this medicine, right? And so the biggest thing that I noticed was that there's not a large amount of funding put into their hospital systems, put into the programs there so that individuals can grow and continue to thrive and be successful and basically, you know, survive. And so you have many families that were not basic. Healthcare is not basic in Winnebago. And so that was the biggest thing. And so a large amount of my experience is going to be tied to that. So the federal dollars, let's look at even this pandemic and COVID-19. Like when it happened, I reached out and said, hey, is there anything that I can do to help? What I was told is that they had to apply for funding separately to the Congress, like federally, not to the governor here, not the state, like not Governor Ricketts, but to Congress. They had to ask Congress for money, for dollars to manage the pandemic and their specific reservation. And last I checked, they did not receive anything. So it almost feels like this is a group of Americans that we don't consider American when they were the first people here on this land, and really where we have permission from them to be on this land with them. And so healthcare, dollars to healthcare funding seems to be very, very limited. The other thing is anything that they have in Winnebago, the people, the tribe has created themselves. Like they have come together and put money together to try to make programs thrive. And they are largely still not getting government support for these programs. And so that is the biggest, it all kind of, I guess, ties back to support from the government. I don't believe, I've heard many people say Native Americans can go to school free, yada, yada, yada. That's not necessarily true. They don't get like free tax breaks. And so there's such a misnomer about how they've been made whole based off of being forced to these reservations. Not that the government asked them to, but basically being forced to go to an area of land where they were basically left to die. So there's so much that I can say about that, but what I will say is that they need investments in their schools, they need investments in the hospitals, and they need support in building up their land, their houses, more places, more apartments. It was very much a food desert when I first started working there. There have been more businesses that were created. Thankfully, in the 4 years that I was there, by the time that I left, there was at least one shop that's kind of like Panera bread, but it's not. And there was another restaurant, but I mean, they get their groceries from a gas station, basically. That's like a convenience store. There's any rural town that I go to, I know I've drove through, Lyons, Nebraska, and I know that in Herman and Tacoma, and I know that we have that set up. And in those towns as well, there's many small towns where it's really the small businesses that are holding that town together, and we don't have large dollars put into their healthcare system either. And so I really think all around we need to do better with rural towns, with reservations, with making sure that in order to be successful, every community has what they need. And I think that that's a conversation that people are finally starting to have in the wake of this George Floyd's death, and in the wake of what does inclusion look like? What does systematic oppression look like? Going to the reservation, when you see these cars that are older model styled, these homes that are older styled, you definitely see that they are not receiving the support that they should receive.
Mhm. And again, a question of priorities and compassion, is really what it comes down to, I think. Are there any that you know of, or that you could let everybody else know of, any organizations or any, a website that people could go to, if even if it's just donating money, donate time, what can people do to help, and where can they
Absolutely. I
place
think
that?
the biggest thing would be donating to the tribal council. And so the Winnebago website, oh gosh, I used to have it in my head by heart, but it's Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. So we have 4 reservations in the state of Nebraska. So any Nebraskan that would love to help out, we have the Omaha Tribe, which is on Macy, in Macy, Nebraska. We also have Santee Sioux, and that is in, oh my God, I'm forgetting. It's like Niobrara or close in that area. And
Okay.
then we also have the Ponca tribe, which is in Ponca, Nebraska. And so
Mhm.
all of these tribes could benefit from support. They have tribal councils, which are what people consider like their mini governments, but they still report to our government. And so like they still send, information, they apply for grants, right? So they still have a relationship with our government. And so I would definitely look at donating to the tribal council, because they make sure that that money gets directly to the people. That kind of takes out your middleman. The other thing is some tribes have money that they give to students when they graduate. I've heard it referred to as their Indian money, like when somebody is 18 and they graduate. And based on the wealth of the tribe, that's how much money people get. Well,
Okay.
out here they don't usually get very much money. Like the tribes in Las Vegas, I hear that they get like thousands of dollars, right? Because they have many of the casinos, or
Right.
they're set up successfully. That's not the case in Nebraska. So the basic thing is we want people to be able to have food. We want people to be able to have shelter, their
Right.
basic needs, clean water, health care. Everybody in the state of Nebraska needs access to that. And so any little bit that anyone wants to donate, go into there, looking up the tribal councils for, and I can maybe send it to you. I don't know if we can include it in the video, but I would be happy
Okay.
to send some information so that individuals can get a direct link and find it out.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
I guess really my last question here would be, pretend for a second that you were not running for Senate. You're just a voter, like the rest of us here.
Okay.
Um, what on a personal level,
Mhm.
what would it mean to you to have somebody like yourself, an African American woman, elected to the position that you're looking to get? What would that mean to you personally as a voter?
Mm. So as a voter, I don't know that I've seen anybody that looks like me, and I don't even mean just as an African American woman. I think I'm so practical. Like I have many people that have conversations with me, and they share. I call them jewels of information. Like they share why healthcare is important to them, their family stories. They become vulnerable, and I've never ever seen that happen within a politician. And with my sorority, I've gone to Washington D.C. I've done training. I've created like legislative agendas. We've had legislative days where we've talked with our congressmen. I've gone to the unicameral. It's usually a very, and I hate to say it, this word, but this is what it feels like to me, a very superficial conversation. And I'm not having superficial conversations. I'm having real conversations to understand what the real problem is and what the solution needs to look like. So for me, I've never felt that I've had a politician who has actually had to work up from the bottom. I was raised in poverty. I'm the fourth of 8 kids. We lived in North Omaha, and the projects at the time, it was called Pleasant View East. I went to college on a partial scholarship, worked all through college just to pay the other way, came back, did my grad school. So I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to be, have Medicaid and then have Medicaid not approve procedures that should be approved. So I kind of understand many of the obstacles that people are still dealing with today. And I'm really embarrassed that as many of us are, like, we have a large amount of Americans that are still dealing with this issue. In 2020, I definitely expected better. So I think if it was me not being, the person just as a voter looking at myself, that I would find like, oh, wow, this isn't somebody who's just kind of buying their way into politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, what do they say? The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? So you keep electing the same people over and over, you're going to get more of the same. So I think it's absolutely time that we get somebody with some fresh ideas in that seat and, hopefully make some positive change. So,
Yeah, and it takes all of us, like my entire team. I'm looking for everybody in Nebraska, regardless of their gender identification, their race identification, whoever you are, whatever we have here. That's what DC should look like. I shouldn't go to Ben Sass's office and see people who have no idea where. And when I say, "Oh, I'm from Omaha, Nebraska," they're like, "Oh yeah, Omaha. That's that's by Herman, right?" Or that's like, what did they, Scotts Bluff? Is that by Scotts Bluff? I'm like, that's complete opposite. So then I'm asking like, well, where are you from in Nebraska? So honestly, like, we don't need Washington insiders to tell us how we need to run our state. We need people who are from here, who have lived here, who understand the struggle, who understand what small towns face, who understands what we face in our school system in order for us to make adequate change. You cannot make a solution to the problem if you don't see the problem first. And that, I think, is the biggest issue that I've noticed. Many of these traditional politicians, I don't know where they get their thinking for what the problem is, but it's not always, it's very rarely similarly to what I see it as. So I'm really grateful that I have other individuals that are willing to work on my team to bring in their perspective, because I think when we all come to the table, it allows us to have that conversation and to make solutions. And I've been saying it since I've been running, that it's time for us to bring love back to the table and back to Nebraska. Love means equality. We want everybody's family to be well and to do well. And I think that's where we start.
Absolutely. Well, I think I was going to say, give you a chance to kind of, give sort of a closing statement, but I think that was it right there. So that was very, very good. Thank you. And I guess, the last thing I would say is just, if there are folks who sort of resonate with what you were saying today and, want to try to get involved and help you out, how can they do so?
Yeah, so you guys can check me out at sheltonforsenate.com. That's SHELTON Senate.com. We also are on Facebook at Shelton for Senate, Twitter, Shelton4 Senate, and Instagram at Shelton for Senate. We have links to the website, and we also have a Camp Shelton coming up. That will be this Thursday at 6:30. And so this is volunteer training that we're doing to teach people how to do text banking, phone banking. So if you are interested in helping out, if you are interested in politics, or you want politics just to look different, definitely sign up. Our link is on Facebook, or you can send an email to info@Shelton4Senate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And I hope this helps, get your message out there to more people, so that we do see some change, and that it doesn't look like politics as usual, because I think that's what's got us into this whole mess to begin with. So
it's time for a change, and I'm ready for
it. It is. So thank you so much. And I certainly hope to maybe talk to you again sometime in the future, hopefully after you win.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.